Welcome to the Wolf Connection podcast. I'm your host, John Kalfa. Let's talk about some wolves. Back on this episode of the podcast, we have back with us co-lead of programs, Micha Thomas, and our director of programs, Amanda Beer, to talk more about Women and Wolves and some of the upcoming programs. Happy to have you both back on. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Good to be here, John.
Same. Excellent.
You can answer when I speak to you. It's okay. So there were a couple of topics that, so for those who may be listening to part 2 right now and didn't catch part 1, if you guys could just give a brief summary of the Women and Wolves program, who are the individuals that typically come to it, and what do you guys offer to the individuals that come to this program?
Go ahead, Micha.
I think Misha's going to take this one.
Oh, I am? Okay, so a recap. What is the Women and Wolves program?
Yes.
I'm going to really invite you to jump in here because this is really riffing. It is a program that started 3 years ago by an employee here, Julia Capelli. It was a shorter program at the time. It was just a couple hours. And one of the many things that we realized is we really just needed kind of a full half day for women to come together, have a deeper experience of the land, each other, the wolves. And so that's what it is. It's an immersive experience of what I kind of see it as immersive experience of the self, of what it is to be a part of a group of women, an experience of the land, an experience of wolves, which for most women who come here is going to be their first time probably ever having met a wolf. What else would you add?
The only thing I would add is I think it's just a program that comes together so naturally that for whatever reason, women in particular are hungry and yearning for a connection with the wild, and maybe the wild within themselves, the wild around them, nature. And, they come here to find that. And like you said, Micha, we call it a deep dive program. So we have community programs that are just a couple hours. People come get a tour. We really strive for depth there, but because this is such an immersive program, folks we really invite them to go inward and be really still like a wolf and really curious about what's happening for them. And then at the same time, the beautiful thing about wolves is that the self is so connected to the pack. So it's this really beautiful experience that when these women come together, they are doing self-exploration, but they're surrounded by a pack. Even if they don't know these other women, there's just this sense of collective engagement and of being supported in the process.
So when you say, because I love when you guys were talking about this when we spoke last, when you were saying the difference, and I've worked with programs with both of you, where you can do the deep dive. What are some of the bigger takeaways you can get from a deep dive program that's extensive? That's a 6-hour program, let's say, as opposed to, say, when people come for, a hike with the wolves, it's 2.5 hours. Not to say that those experiences cannot happen there, but what are some of the bigger takeaways that you find, especially with these group of individuals that come to Women and Wolves, like the takeaways that you can get from a longer deep dive, so that people can kind of get the difference?
The first thing that comes to me, John, interestingly, is the intention. So when we promote Women and Wolves, we really promote it as a program where you're going to be in sacred space, learn about yourselves, connect deeply with the wolves. We really encourage people to want to do that work coming into it. And so it's very explicit. And the reason that comes up for me is because I'm thinking of all the people that come here, and you're typically going to get what you get out of something is what you put in, and maybe what intention you come with. Whereas with some of the other events / programs that we do, people come here for all kinds of reasons. They might come, they just really want to see a wolf or a wolf dog. They like hiking.
Yeah.
People have such magical experiences when they come here. I think they always get more than what they intended. So that to me, that's really what we mean by the deep dive. Like literally people come to this program to be with other women, to really explore themselves and their connection with the wolves and their connection to something more primal. And so they kind of come prepped for that already. And they just so beautifully come to be there for themselves and to be there for the other women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. I would just add that intentionality is a huge thing, both on our behalves too, as staff members, our people as leaders, just kind of going, we talked about this last time, right? Like nothing is ever not thought through to a certain level, but we also allow for the spontaneity, and I think a lot of our experiences from day to day don't allow for that, right? They mostly kind of encourage like staying in our heads, right? But that is also part of the reason why the program got a little longer over time, right? It was to allow to truly drop in, to kind of drop out of the head, drop into the heart, drop into the body. And sometimes that takes time, right? So it's not going to happen maybe just in that first hour when you're plunged into a brand new environment and brand new humans you've never met.
Right. Yeah. You have to sort of get adjusted, right?
Right. And so that's part of the intentionality that also is allowing for spontaneity and space of like, we intentionally make it a certain amount of time so that women can drop in, and so that there is enough space for that and not an expectation that it's going to happen in hour 2 or hour 3. It's just whatever unfolds that day, but we at least want to allow for enough space to get a different experience of yourself and others, right? And I think we talked a little bit, I don't know why this came up last time, but like talk therapy a little bit, right? And even that in a way, sometimes, 50 minutes is almost this kind of regimented, you go in.
It's structured.
And sometimes you go in and you perform versus go in, drop in, and excavate things that you weren't even aware of.
Yeah. Do you both of you find when people are applying, and I apologize for not knowing the process, but do you find when these women get here that this is something, and you touched upon it last time, that it's something they're yearning for or something that they've been casing around and looking for, a space where, like you said, there's it's able for them to get out of their comfort zone and it's not as structured as other places maybe they've been? Have you find that that's something that they're looking for, that people are yearning for when they come to this program or when they sign up?
I think, some of this is kind of guessing, right? Like we can, sometimes they actually report that, right? Whether it's in the beginning, we always open a circle with, what brought you here. Sometimes at the end, when there's like a reflection of what they're taking away, we get to hear that verbally. But I think a lot of it is we have to trust that that's what unfolded, just in our experience of them or what we witnessed. And I don't want to sidetrack your question, but one thing I thought about after our last talk is one of the things that we didn't talk that I think is such a crucial aspect of this is ritual and ceremony. We very mindfully think through those things and we change them a little bit every time. And I think ritual and ceremony are something that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what gender or anything that people crave in these modern times, right? And that is such a huge part of what we do is these sacred ceremonies, these sacred rituals, even things to take away physically to remind them of the day. And I think that's something that's really special to this program. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love how you highlighted it's not just women, and I would say the same for this whole craving connection with the wild. But we talked about this last time of this like maybe an extra layer of taming that happens with women that I won't go into because we spoke about it last time. And again, people come for a lot of different reasons, and it comes together. I mean, it's not that everyone's intention is the same. Some people come for the ritual. We have people who come who aren't that into wolves.
Right. They just want to be connected with other people. Even if it's that simple, I don't know.
Yeah. One thing I'll note that's very interesting is we always have every session at least a couple women who say, I don't really spend time with women. It's one of my favorite parts. There's this, because you might assume people come because they want to be with a group of women. And many people, I mean, we've had so many people come and say, I work with all men, or I've never felt like I get along with women, or whatever it is. But I couldn't say exactly what it is, but for some reason, when it's women and wolves, they almost take this risk or go into this, what you mentioned, this discomfort of being with a group of women. I can only guess with an expectation that it might be different than other circles in their life. And it's just a really beautiful thing that happens. That's one way that I see people kind of get out of their comfort zone and take this risk and kind of I don't know if it's overcome or move through some idea they have about how groups of women are together, whatever that may be.
Yeah. And it's probably, and again, it's like you both have been saying for the last 2 times, this time and the previous time, is that it's a new environment. It's something that maybe these individuals haven't been out in nature at all. And like you said, maybe they don't care for wolves, they don't care for women, but you're right. It's a different environment with so many different aspects thrown in together that something clearly is awakening wherever it is, and that they feel the need to sign up and come through, and there's something that can be gained. Otherwise, I don't think they would be here. I don't want to pass judgment or pass any sort of, accountability on anyone or tend to make them feel a certain way. But I feel like that's why people would sign up, is that they're looking for something to come through.
Yeah, I would add, there's probably what's conscious to a woman who signs up, and then not to get too woo, but also what's unconscious, because I kind of have to just trust that something got them there. Like Amanda said, there are women who are very explicit. Like, I don't generally get along with women, and yet they have signed up for a full day with women, right? And so there's something in there too that maybe is not fully conscious to them that has drawn them here,
right.
And so there's a lot of trust in that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are great facilitators in allowing that trust to be out there, because you guys facilitate it so well, and the staff that's with you guys to be able to give them that space, to be able to trust that this is a space that can be a common space for everyone to come and be. And one of the things I did want to get to that we didn't touch on last time, or we were talking around it or a little bit, Stephen had mentioned a beautiful story with Bella, is that what are some of the wolves that have really influenced the two of you when you do these programs? I know, Amanda, you touched on, you go up sometimes and sit by Maya's grave and you just meditate there and sort of get into a different space. So if there are any, I think I'd love to hear if there's any particular wolf or wolves that have influenced the program since you guys have been doing this. And even for the one, I know we'll date this, but there is one coming up this Saturday. So if you can touch on that would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know last time, I won't speak to this again, we mentioned Maggie and how she'd inspired our programs for the beginning of 2020 in regards to how she moves with and through her fear. I mean, I'll have to say the wolf that comes to mind immediately for me is Willow, who's a wolf that often isn't directly involved in the program because she's a wolf and she does what she wants, and she doesn't always seem to want to come out for this program. Maybe 6 hours is a little long for her. But very personally, how she's... did I talk about this last time?
No,
I did.
No, we didn't hear about Willow last time.
I just was sitting here looking at Steven, and I don't know, Steven, if I have had conversations about Willow.
We've talked about this kind of topic before.
Yeah. So that's where you can talk about it again. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, I feel like she, Steven's mentioned this too, she kind of like embodies the feminine. Take that for what you will. But for me personally, she is the wolf that taught me about my own self-worth. Fuck if I'm going to cry over in, being around her, but in a very specific way that was about feeding her. I came to learn that, so all this was nonverbal, clearly, as this wolf is teaching me, but she helped me see that I was pretending to be confident, that I had lived my life in a way of doing things to add layers of confidence or evidence that I was worthy, like onto my core self, and that a wolf could give a shit about that
Mm-hmm.
because they see right through you. And so I didn't know I was doing that, but those levels of pretending, if I walk in with her food and pretend that I'm confident, she could see right through me. And so she would punk me a little bit. And I don't know what happened, but one day I'm in with her, looking at her, and it's just like I felt it in my body, like she was looking at me with question. It's like, why can't you show up for this? And why would you not be worthy of being with me face to face? You have something I want. I'm willing to
Right.
take it. You know, just felt very matter of fact, but it was mind blowing and life changing.
Yeah.
And it's not that I all of a sudden, you know, was totally in touch with my worth in that moment, but it helped me connect with that part of myself and began like this ongoing process that's happened at Wolf Connection. It's happened in my individual life and in my individual coaching of, you know, really getting in touch with, without all this crap, all this layered shit, who am I really? And why wouldn't I deserve to be here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'd been coming here for about 2 years, just like as a friend of Wolf Connection. It was before I started on staff. So I'd had an experience with a lot of the wolves, but I remember the first time one of our colleagues brought out Willow. And the level of self-possession that she has is just moving. It is so staggering. And that includes her ability to show being a little fearful. Like that to me is even being so embodied because she allows us. She'll put her tail between her legs and she will do things on her terms and she will even turn away from the group when she's not ready. And that's even a part of her power, right? Of just going, I'm not ready. I don't want to do this right now. The way she carries herself is extremely moving and motivating. And I have to name that she hasn't made it out for all Women and Wolves, but we added her to the end of the last one.
Hopefully she does.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like, as humans do, right? We see this with a lot of adolescents, but this is adults, everybody. When you've had like a very intensely emotional, and stimulating day, sometimes what happens is you kind of fragment. You just want to talk. You need to chat. You need to loosen things up. And so that was happening kind of towards the end. But as we know here, like that's not really the energy for Willow, right? Like getting loosey-goosey isn't the best way to meet her. So it was interesting. We kind of just, we got her in at the end of the program. We're all kind of getting talkative. And that brought the group back to absolute silence and presence because it was the only way that she was going to go through the group, right? And show herself and be a part of it is if we all got really real and present again, right? And we got still and we got quiet and we witnessed her. And so it was beautiful that she doesn't always make it out, but we got her in and it was a teaching moment for all of us to like come back to our center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Amanda and I talked about. Sorry about that.
No, go.
That's what Amanda and I were talking about. That's why when you looked at me, you thought you'd already talked about it because we talked about it in person, in private. But I had a similar experience with Willow, where when I first started hiking higher contents, it wasn't. I won't use the word scared, but I didn't know what part of me to activate to do it right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't scared. I felt unsteady a little bit because I didn't know what part of me I needed to show up for me to do it well, and safely for them. And I remember I was hiking Willow. I was about to hike her and I was stopped right next to the teepee. And I was like, I just don't feel 100% stable, but I'm not scared. But I just don't feel, like I said, didn't know what part of me to activate. And I remember like this image just came this thought really just came into my head, like, what type of person does Willow need to feel safe? And I immediately thought of I just thought of a woman. Like I was like, what's the strong woman that Willow needs, right? And that for some reason, I don't know, it helped me like tap into some kind of energy. I can't explain it and I won't explain it with feminine, masculine, talk or whatever, but it helped me tap into some part of me that felt soft and strong. And then our relationship only got immensely better every interaction we had from then on out. Once I knew like what part of me needed to be activated to keep her, to make her feel safe. our relationship just has flown since then because every time I see her, it's activated, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just listening to all three of you have the same wolf, have three different profound experiences and I've had my breakthroughs with her as well. But to me, that just goes to show and it's nothing that she's right. It's a look, or it's a tail tuck, or it's energetically feeling what she needs.
Yeah,
is why. Not to go to the podcast, but that's the reason why she is the embodiment of a lot of what what Wolf Connection and what Women and Wolves, I feel like, embodies. And, you know, she's on our cover art for a reason. When you look at her and when you see her and when, you know, you feel the strength, you feel the vulnerableness, you feel the guidance, and she just embodies all of those things. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing to see how it's impacted, and it's like a stone through water, and how she ripples out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she's really done that. And she's not an alpha, but she has that impact, and it's able to be felt across multiple waves, even if she can't come out.
Yeah.
She's the embodiment of that.
And it's worth noting that the woman that I was thinking of, like it was like she didn't need me to guide her in any way. Like that, it was more of like a friendship that she needed. Mm. You know what I mean? And that's what I felt like super strongly in that moment. But anyways, it was not like a monopolizing person.
No,
you know?
Not at all.
It wasn't like she needed me to be anything. It was like, if we're going to collaborate and there's going to be flow, then it's a feminine, it's a feminine energy, whatever those two things mean. Cause I think it's the diluted definition of, you know, feminine and masculine. Mm-hmm. But, it was like a feminine energy that was not monopolizing, giving her freedom, but also she could trust my decision making. You know, because she's on leash.
She's on leash. She's gonna have. I mean, that's the things that we're taught when we initially get here. Is that, and when you start to hike and walk the higher contents, it's a completely different energetic level and a completely different trust level and bond that you need to have, because you're the one guiding them.
Yeah. And
there's going to be trust there, but it's like you said, and I'm sure what you guys witnessed too with the participants is that everything needs to be met on an equal level, is that we're all equal in some way, shape, or form, and that there is no dominant behavior over, you know, whatever species or whatever it is right now.
Yeah.
Is that we need to have that coexistence in order for things to work. We've touched on this with many different guests that have come through the podcast. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how that kind of circulates in.
Yeah, she's wild.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I think about it all the time. Every time I meet people or animals, I think about where did my brain go at that moment? I try to tap into it all the time because I'm like, that will really help me activate the right part of, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah. I love listening to. I have goosebumps listening to you all. And if it's okay, can I also just add one other word?
Yeah, absolutely.
That I feel it felt like it was being called for today. Something that I was thinking about that I think makes programs like this, deep inner work, therapy, whatever it is, also really work. And I think is really important, at least for this program, is also a little bit of humor.
Yeah.
And I think Amanda usually kicks off the program, and I think she does it in such a beautifully, like, disarmingly way. You know, we introduce them quickly into the fact that we can't not cuss with joy. You know, and there's like a firmness because there's real safety issues here, right? But there's also this invitation for play a little bit too. And so I always think of our elder, Ayasha, in this kind of spitfire of a way. She's tiny. Her story is funny of how she was found by being lured in with a piece of pizza. Her face looks like she has like a giant grid. And so for her, I also think that to me, she's a little bit of an ambassador of this program of like, get into that humor and that spitfire part of you, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it's her howl too. I'm sure she's made her voice heard a couple of times, that foghorn.
Yeah. I think it's an F sharp. I think it's I recorded it once.
I'll table that to the musician.
Might be a G. I got to remember. I have it on my phone.
They'll bring the tuning fork at some point to do it. But I love that you said that. I love that you said that because she's right there. She's right at the start of the arena. She's the start of every program that we have.
She's the Amanda of the first one you talk to. She disarms everybody.
Exactly. Totally. And it's that first, it's everybody's first interaction at some level with a wolf or a wolf dog on this property is Ayasha. She is, for the most part, the first one you see, maybe, unless she's chilling out in the house. But she's the first one that really and maybe I don't know. I'm not at these but I see it sometimes when people walk down to the arena for a hike. They almost the switch turns on and they go, "Oh, I'm really here with wolves and wolf dogs and an animal that I've always." Some come here for the wolves, some come here for the program itself. And they go, "Oh, I'm really here." Like now, like this is going to start. And it's, I don't know. I like just talking about it. I get like that anticipation of like, oh man, I can't wait for this to get going, you know? And it's just, I don't know. Does it fly by for you guys? Cause 6 hours may seem like a long time, but I don't know. I feel like when you get in the throes of it, like I know there's all the prep and you're doing you're getting the rituals all set up in the wolves and the lineup and things like that. How does the 6 hours for you all play out? How do you feel it plays out for everybody, for yourselves included?
I mean, it's one program for me. It's been an evolving process. I was so nervous the first one I led because, like Micha said, we do so much kind of ritual and ceremony, and we really bring people into an experience. And this is one where we're really using our energy to hold a container for everyone involved that's safe and enriching. I'm not giving us all the power of that. It's our whole staff. It's the wolves. It's the land. But I know for myself, I mean, I really think there's part of me that just immerses myself in the best way that I can be like a wolf or be like in my primal being. And given that that's not the way I've been socialized in the world, I mean, I feel it at the end. There's usually this, like, I feel amazing, like so full of light that all these women were here and it was such a beautiful experience. And like exhaustion in the best way, like that you just really showed up for something. I can only compare it to, like being involved in sports or, something huge that you just kind of give yourself to fully in a very calm way. I mean, just it's about being present. But I really emphasize that because for me, it helps me think about like what showing up is and how good that feels and how on many days I don't show up like that. There's some kind of conscious or unconscious choice to be a little more closed off, be a little more protected, guarded, small, maybe even. So I'm just reflecting on that in the moment as I speak this. And I actually love showing up like that vulnerable and that open and that primal and grounded. It's inspiring. Beautiful things always happen. But I also feel the sense of, oof. It feels like a lot because it's unfamiliar sometimes, and maybe the ideas I have about that vulnerability. But I'll stop there. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just, I think back to the question of like how does time pass or how do those 6 hours feel? I'm not sure exactly how you worded it, but yeah, most of the time there is such an immersion of leading it, and it makes me so much so that it takes a concerted effort to remotely be mindful of time. Right? And sometimes that's a thing here anyways, right? Of like wolf connection time and every other time.
There is a vortex here where I'm convinced.
But especially with something like this, right? Of like, again, we did we did really mindfully think about what the program is. And so we hope to not miss part of it, and so there is this level of like being so in it. And then also it's hard to keep track of time, right? When you're so present. So it makes me also think this is just like that perfect time to say, like, it's not just Amanda and I, there's other staff members. And it's this beautiful balance of like, if we're really in it, then usually one of them is so great about keeping things moving in an organic way, or, and so it's such a team effort here without like any cliche. It's like, no, it literally is such a team effort to move through that space fluidly, but also mindfully.
Yeah. I mean, it's the things that we promote in any of the programs, right? It's a pack mentality. You can't do it. We always say this, that the lone wolf is such a myth that's been carried down for generations and, tens, hundreds, however many years, that when they see that, is there anything that you see? How does the staff and the volunteers and the people that come here for this, they're all awesome when they give their time and they do these programs. Is it something where you can see the staff sort of immersing themselves as well with the individuals, the participants that come, and it's just like you said, like sort of like an outer, like, can you sort of step back as like an outer body for a minute and just go, wow, I see all these things clicking and moving around and just not even aware that there's a program going on. Mm-hmm. Does that ever occur?
A couple things I would note. One, we are so fortunate, and I just fucking love our staff here and all. It's such selfless work, truly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you get to be around wolves and do all this, but there's a lot of moving parts at this place. And one thing I think we're always really grateful for is we never have a problem staffing Women and Wolves.
Yeah.
Because I think our women here are also hungry for it and hungry to share it with others. Right. And, it's different than the caretaking of the wolves that some of our volunteers do, but it's a unique program that they get to participate in. And it's also beautiful training. It's beautiful training how we can't be just totally immersed, because we're really holding the container and keeping everything safe and on schedule for the guests. So it's that kind of beautiful balance of moving back and forth. But we invite all the staff, if we have photographers here, whoever's here, to participate in all the ritual, to kind of participate the whole time. But of course, then they're still holding responsibility for handling animals and, making sure everyone gets where they need to be, which is beautiful life training to move in and out of, just being present and taking action, very much like a wolf would, right? They have intention about where they're moving when, and being still versus being in motion.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'll add, I think one of the wonderful things that staff members do for the guests of Women and Wolves, but I've worked with both of you too, right? With adolescents and one of the things that we do is help model a way to show up, so you can kind of sense sometimes that like tentativeness of the woman of, how do I speak in the circle? How do I participate in this group? And I think, our staff here does such a gorgeous job of mirroring how to speak from the heart, how to be lean, but vulnerable and honest. And I can see guests kind of respond to that and go like, oh, okay, this was a little bit of a map of how to show up. I can do it my way, but I got to see them show up in this circle too. And I think that that's invaluable as well.
It seems like there's a lot of life tools that people can take out of it. It seems like it's not present. It seems like like we keep saying, it's an organic way that these things happen. It's not structured. Like you said, it's not like you go to a panel or a presentation and it's laid out for you. It's not structured, right? 50 minutes, like you said before, Micha. We're going to give you the time and the space. And this is, people come out of it with so many different things. And that's what I truly love about it. What I want to do also is that I confirmed with both of you before we started that there is going to be another Women and Wolves early in November. So what are some of the things that you guys are working on to get that program going? I know you have one that's in just a couple of days. So what's the preparation like for this one that's coming up in early November? So roughly a month from now. that you guys are putting together. Is there anything that you can tease about, let everybody know like what's going on? Like what's some of the plans that you guys are coming up with for this one?
Well, we are sticking with the awakened truth theme. We don't always do this, but we spoke about women and humans generally being hungry for this work, and particularly during this current time. I could name all the things, but even if we just talked about COVID, the isolation that's happening for people. So, we typically would only do maybe one fall program, but we decided to have 3 offerings because people are yearning this so much. So we found this theme of awakened truth, understanding that people are all having their unique experience during this time. But I think Micha spoke to this last time, maybe a lot more time and space to be still with self and wake up to different parts of ourselves or ways we're connecting with the world or things we hadn't thought about before. So we're finding that to be really potent. So we're sticking with that theme. I do think this one being in November, there's something about like being right in fall and on the cusp of winter that is powerful. We kind of honor the seasons and all of the changes here. And we talk about the fall sometimes as being this time of harvest and kind of harvesting the gems within us or the things we've already learned. And so I think it's a really rich time of year. Those are the first things that come to me. I will say the nice thing about having 3 in a row is that we get to play off the planning we did from the last one. And we already have staff signed up for this one. And so we have a lot of things in place already because we've had some good momentum going and people are excited. I'll let Micha speak to any of the other.
I think, pulling in the seasonal aspect is huge. And the end of year, this will be our last one. So maybe to answer your question too, like what's the prep is also like feeling into what this next month feels like. And I'm going to keep this last part lean so as not to derail Amanda's beautiful response, but I'll also name that it'll be 4 days after the election. So
Good
there's
timing.
that.
So there's that.
Good
So
timing.
perhaps we may need another offering. We won't promise that this is the last one. We'll see. We're here to serve, truly. And we've had to shift our serving. We're not able to serve some of the schools that we typically work with. And it's allowed more Women in Wolves programs. But, we'll see. We may need to offer even more of this before the end of the year. Or Micha and I, as she mentioned last time, are finding other ways to see if we can reach people virtually or the women who have already come out to invite them back.
Good timing.
However you look at it, whether politically,
Seasonally,
health, COVID, people need support. They need community. They need, to connect. And that's why we're here.
No, and you guys have done such a beautiful job with that. So give everybody because this podcast will air before that. So where can they go to look for any of the information for the Women in Wolves that's coming in November, so they can find out, sign up? Where can they go?
Most people find us through social media. Our website's being revamped right now, so please don't look for the event on the website. I'm not going to direct you there. And John, at the end, you'll give all the info about the social, right?
Yeah,
I
can do
sometimes
that.
say it wrong. So John will give you the platforms for Insta and Facebook. That's literally the best way. If anyone listening is not on social media, you can email me at abeer, like the drink, ABEER, @wolfconnection.org, and I can send you the link.
Yeah. And you can also, so if you guys want to do that, there will be Instagram postings about it. So if you follow us on Instagram, we're Wolf Connection, one word. Twitter, Wolf Connection as well. Facebook, Wolf Connection on our Facebook page. I won't direct you to the website since it's being revamped, but we will have some postings prior to the November, what's the date? November 7th, right? So November 7th for Women in Wolves. Stephen, is there anything that you want to ask or tie up, or you?
No, sir.
You're good?
You got it all.
Amanda, Micha, thank you guys so much for coming back again. And these episodes are running back to back. So if you missed part 1, I would love for anybody who's listening to go back and listen to part 1 so you can get even more about this wonderful program, about the work that Micha, Amanda, the rest of our staff are doing for those that need this and are yearning, I think, for this type of connection in these times that we're still going through in 2020. So with that, at Wolf Connection on Instagram, Amanda Wolf Connection on Instagram as well. Misha's still working on hers, I think. She's doing over there.
Micha only sends it once a month.
You can meet Micha in person if you want at Women in Holes. That's the best way to contact Micha.
That's incentivizing.
That's incentivizing. Yeah,
I like it.
So for all of you out there, so this is part 2. Please listen to part 1. Howls to the rest of you out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk to you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.